Tonight is the debate, and I'm not going to waste my time talking to you all about what the strategy is. I did that in my last video. What I want to talk about is something that's much more serious and needs to be talked about. How the media has covered up Donald Trump's obvious cognitive decline. The same thing they kept raving and screaming about when Joe Biden had his disastrous performance in the first debate. A performance that ultimately led him to leave the presidential election and give his support to Kamala Harris. See, here's the real problem with all of it. We all see it, and I've shown you all clips about how Donald Trump has lost complete control of himself. About the things he says, his physical appearances, and everything else. And we're still seeing it today in his Twitter posts, in his Truth Social posts. But nobody in the media is talking about it. Well, someone is talking about it, and she's going to the media and lambasting the media about it. And that someone is obviously... See, here's the thing. It's easy for people like me who don't know Donald Trump personally, only can judge him by his appearance and the way he talks and the way he moves. It's easy for anyone to judge anybody in a vacuum. But when it's coming from your own blood, your own family, then there is a problem that needs to be addressed. And that blood I talk about is, of course, Dr. Mary Trump, Donald Trump's niece. Now, I referenced Dr. Trump plenty of times, especially her book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created America's Most Dangerous Man. Now, I've referenced her plenty of times, and she's probably the perfect person, not only as a healthcare professional, as a psychiatrist, but also as Donald Trump's niece. Now, she addresses in an interview, I forget with who, about this whole situation with the media turning a blind eye to what Donald Trump has done and said. Quoting her, "I defy anyone who is actually trying to follow the thread of that gibberish to tell me what it means." Now, of course, she's referring to the economic speech that Donald Trump gave when he tried to explain what the answer to the question, I should say, from one of the participants, how Donald Trump, if he wins, is going to improve child care, which is too expensive now thanks to inflation. Going back to her, the answer is nobody can. The only phrase that has any logical consistency, child care is child care, also happens to be the only true thing Donald has ever said. That's true. Child care is, after all, child care. The rest was just a joined riff coupled with his greatest hits and catchphrases. Now, she goes off against the media, and quite honestly, I can't help but believe and think that all this is 100% true. Having decided that there's no longer the job of the journalists and pundits to report and analyze information rather than believe they must translate Donald's nonsensical ramblings into a version of the English language we can all understand. That's a huge problem, because on the one hand, they're not really translating his words. They're imbuing them with a meaning that's not there. On the other hand, they're doing this without telling us they're doing it. It's deeply disturbing that somebody as unhinged and as incoherent as Donald is allowed to run for the presidency in the first place, and that leaves aside all the other disqualifying things about him. But the disturbances is compounded when you consider that the corporate media can't seem to muster any urgency in the face of Donald's increasingly bizarre behavior. On any given day, he is demonstrably untethered from reality, and it often seems to be the reason that the warning lights aren't constantly flashing red is because nobody covering him expects otherwise. Surely a press corps that spent months arguing that President Biden's age rendered him mentally unfit wouldn't look the other way when the Republican candidate, the oldest person to run for president in American history is not only old, but decompressing before our very eyes. The difference, of course, is that Biden is aging while Donald is dementing. I can't argue that point at all, because all of it happens to be 100% true. And she ends this by saying that Donald Trump is a frightened, desperate man, as he does, that his continued freedom may well depend on his ability to get back into the White House so he can make the still pending federal cases against him disappear. He increasingly fanatical pronouncements and worsening psychiatric disorders strike me as being newsworthy, unquote. And they should be newsworthy. They absolutely should be newsworthy. This should be front page news. This should be the leading story on the 6 o'clock news on every network in this country, if not the world. But since Donald Trump has been given such a huge pass on everything, we don't hear about it. It's not news. And so, in the minute someone makes it in the news, we get told it's a lie. Donald Trump is showing how crazy that he is on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis, if you pay attention to his Twitter tweets and his truths on Truth Social. And tonight, during the debate, he's going to show us again. And the people who continue to support him continue to show us. I mean, I've had too many arguments in the last 48 hours on Facebook with Donald Trump supporters saying that they don't care what Donald Trump is going through. They don't care that he's crazy. All they care about is getting him back into office. If that's your only motive for just ignoring everything that Donald Trump has said and done, and continuously says and does, then you should not be allowed to vote. Because you're not thinking about all the issues. And right now, as much as inflation is an issue, as much as the border is an issue, as much as high taxes is an issue, the mental and physical fitness of the President of the United States is an issue. The media made it an issue when it came to Joe Biden. Why not Donald Trump? You're going to get a rude awakening tonight. Because Donald Trump, he may focus on the issues, but it's only 30 seconds in and he's going to go insane. We know that. We know that because he has shown us that. Stay tuned. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.